What's good, Wizards fans, and welcome to the Locked On Wizards podcast. It's your host, the real Ed Oliver. I just want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get a podcast. And today I'm welcoming on our new co-host, Brandon Scott, longtime Wizards fan, longtime Commanders fan, DC sports fan, Nationals, Orioles, baseball, everything. Retired military vet. How you feeling today, Brandon? And welcome to the show.
Feeling good. Good to meet everybody. Ready to roll.
Yes, sir. So today we're going to talk about Deni Avdija's performance against Finland. He had a great game today. Awesome game against Finland where he dominated, was clutch. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the big trade with Donovan Mitchell where he was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, Brandon, what were your thoughts on Deni's performance today? What stood out to you the most from Deni's performance?
Man, I was impressed. I mean, look at the stat line, man. 23 points, 15 rebounds. I mean, the defense was on point. You know, he got 2 blocks, 1 steal. I mean, this is what you want to see from Deni, the confidence. I mean, you really saw how Drew Hanley was working on that shot. I mean, the release is smoother, it's faster, you know, the confidence. You know, honestly, man, I was just thinking about this right before I got on, man. You know, if he shows this in training camp in the first 10 games, man, I have no problem with him being a starting forward, man, as far as small forward. He's impressive. I mean, I think the only negative I can get away from is top of the key when he had the ball in ISO. Defense played off him a little bit. That's the one thing, you know, when you get in the NBA, you know, when you go up against guys like Pat Bev, they're going to get in your face. So, you know, I'd like to see how he deals with that. But very impressed. Very impressed.
Yeah, I thought so too. I like what I saw there too. 23 points, 7 of 15 from the field, 15 boards, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 1 steal in 37 minutes, 89-87 win in overtime. He had a clutch shot. I want to say Lauri Markennan was guarding him for the majority of the time, where he hit a shot at the top of the key to put it into overtime. I did write down some notes. You brought up a good point at the top of the key where they they sagged off a little bit, you know, but they started to guard up on him, you know, because he you know, he's showing that he is a threat from the 3-point line. Like you said, with Drew Hanley, he's been working out from the 3. He had a pick and pop 3. But I love how he got to the basket too. He was finishing with either hand, had a nice scoop layup, getting past Lauri Markennan. One time he was guarded by another guy, then had the clutch and one was on Lauri Markennan. Again, the only thing is he did miss the and one free throw, does need to work on that. But the clutch 3 at the top of the key, man, that really stood out for me. And you can see on the last possession of the game, another guy, I don't remember his name, but he took a layup and missed it. And Deni was very upset, very animated that he didn't get the ball when he definitely deserved to get the ball in that last situation. But I love the confidence. The confidence is huge because we've seen times where he has had his head down in Wizards games where, you know, he's been on stretches where, you know, he's gone 0 for from the 3, you know, 0 for 3, 0 for 4, 0 for 5. But he kept his head up, and you can see he was using that 0.4 position as a point guard too. But also he made another clutch play where he's at the top of the key too, where he made an assist between the leg dribble to get to the basket, but he dumped it off to the big man. They went up 73-72 with 2 minutes to go. So he was super clutch, man. He had some ice in his veins tonight, man. He showed why he possibly, you know, why he was named supposed to be the steal of the draft, and I still think he can definitely do that. You know, what else do you see from Deni that you think he can make a leap for this upcoming season?
You mentioned it. Dealing with adversity. A lot of the times, you know, last year we saw that, you know, when he had bad games, he'd get down on himself, and it showed. You know, early in the year when we had the 10-3 start, you know, he was motivated. His defense was on point. You know, you saw, you know, a totally different Deni than you saw later in the year when, you know, he was kind of down on himself, you know. So when he's confident, man, I'm telling you, I totally agree he could be the steal of that year's draft because his athleticism shows. I mean, the passing. I was very impressed with the passing I saw. Yeah. You know, he was hitting, you know, real good passes. I mean, very impressed. I mean, like I said, if he can show this going into the season, I have no problem with him being the wing because the athleticism, the shot is back. You know, the vision on the court. I mean, it's just I see what scouts see. You know, and he's definitely, in my opinion, you know, a definite steal in that draft. So,
yeah. So the first quarter, the first half, he, you know, it looked like he was, you know, getting used to the game, getting used to the speed of the game. I know he just came off of health and safety protocols coming back. But also, I do want to say some quotes from Iran Soroka, who was a guest on the show. He's been a guest on Locked On Wizards a couple times. He actually works for Sports 5 in Israel. He did an interview with Deni Avdija talking about the game, and this is a quote that he had. So I've been, messaging Iran throughout the day about the game too. He said, "This is what Deni said. I took the matchup with Lauri personal. I told myself it's now or never. I've guarded some great players, and I'll guard some more in the future. But with Markennan, I told the coach stuff. I don't care about scoring or fouls or whatever. Just let me slow this guy down, and I made it hard for him." What did you think about Deni's defense?
Man, very impressed. I mean, he's got that. We always talk about the dog. Having a dog, that mentality. Right. You know what I mean? He's got it. He's got it, and his defense is impressive. In my opinion, it's an all NBA defense. It's all NBA defense. I mean, if you look at him last season, to be able to slow down players like Giannis, he was shut down Giannis early on, man. I mean, the defense is on point. And the longest only knock on him was a shot. So honestly, if he's consistent with that 3-point shot, added to that defense and that vision, sky's the limit for Deni. Straight up.
Yeah, he had a huge stop against Lauri Markennan. He had a huge stop against another big man for Finland as well. And he actually had a block too on a 3-pointer. I wrote that down on my notes too. Almost forgot about that. Where it was 50 seconds left in the game. Somebody shot a corner 3. I'm sorry, I don't know these guys' names from Finland at all, except for Lauri Markennan. Lauri Markennan had a great game too. I'm not gonna lie to you. He had about 27 points or something like that. He had a putback dunk. He was virtually unstoppable in that first half, but they did have to put Deni on him. Lauri Markennan shot like 11 free throws in the first half, which was ridiculous. Yeah. But Deni did a good job defensively. He had that block in the clutch too. So, and the Wizards, they need more closers. Kyle Kuzma was a closer. I think Porzingis is a closer. Bradley Beal can be a closer. I think there's some inconsistencies with him in the clutch, but if Deni can have that clutch gene in him too, man, that's another guy. We had a lot of close games last year, and there's gonna be a lot of close games next year too. So. This was very intriguing. I'm very intrigued by Deni.
Oh, absolutely. This is what you want to see from Deni in the offseason. It's what you want to see out of him because the big thing right now for next year's team is who's going to play small forward. If he can step in and show this Deni that we're looking for, you could see Will Barton as 6 man. So, yeah, I totally agree, man. His defense, and especially Markennan. Markennan is not an easy guard. Look at this stat line. 33 points, 12 rebounds. So, Markennan was on point. But, so if he can play – oh, man, I'm excited, man. I'm saying because Deni looked good. He looked good. And, you throw that in there with, KP – the beard, man, he's looking straight. So I'm optimistic, especially from these 2 guys, man, because a lot of question marks with these 2 guys, especially KP. Most of it has to do with, his health. Skill level's never been an issue. It's just health. But with Deni, man, that dog, if he can show that dog, especially with finishing, you brought up earlier, and, last year, the big problem with him was finishing strong. He showed, a little bit, he showed a little timidity when it with contact. And so if he can have that dog, man, watch out.
Definitely, yeah. He's definitely primed. He's a potential breakout candidate for the Washington Wizards for sure. And he's got to have that dog in him for sure. But yeah, battling with Will Barton's going to be him against Will Barton for that 3 spot. You could throw Rui in competition for that battle too. Who's going to start? But of course, the most important thing is finishing games. If he can defend like he did, like you brought up with Giannis and Brandon Ingram and Jimmy Butler throwing up the clamps and throwing up the X. Then it's hard to keep him on the bench in the last part of the game. But I do have one more quote from Iran, and then we're going to get to the Donovan Mitchell talk, of course, and then we'll wrap up with that. But before we do get to that, we do have a quick word from NHTSA Impaired Driving. Just want to make sure you guys stay safe out there. So we have a quick word from them. Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit. It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. All right, and then also one thing I would say, just to be objective too, I talk about this with Porzingis too, is because you look at FIBA basketball, there are guys that perform differently, like Patty Mills performs differently in the Olympics than he does in the NBA. I think Patty Mills is still a really good player too. Same thing with Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier for France, he looks like a different player, like the Michael Jordan of France, or Hedo Turkoglu looks like the Michael Jordan of Turkey. But when it comes to the NBA, they're good players, but not great players.
Yeah.
I do want to see this translate to the games. I don't know yet if he can dominate in an NBA game and put up 25 and 13. We haven't seen that yet. His career high is about like 21 points. He's only 21 years old, so he's still growing and developing too. The Auburn game he dominated, but that was against college players. This game was against Finland. Not bad competition, but really good competition. Lauri Markennan is a great NBA player, so this one definitely gave me more confidence than what I saw from the Auburn game, which I did like what he did in the Auburn game as well. I'm not going to take anything away from Deni, but this is the last quote from Iran as well. Shout out to him. You can follow him on Twitter at SOROKMAN. He said, Deni said, quote, "I've always dreamt of being on this stage. I've been in the NBA and EuroLeague, but something is special when you have your country's name across your chest," end quote. So I love hearing that from Deni. This is the interview that Iran did with Deni after the game against Finland. So, but all right, let's transition to Donovan Mitchell, man. I was shocked. What was your initial reaction to the trade for Donovan Mitchell to the Cavaliers?
I was shocked because it wasn't the Knicks. I thought the Knicks were the front runners just because they had the picks. But the Knicks didn't do themselves any favors by, re-signing RJ Barrett because that was the piece they wanted. So, the Cavs. I mean, the Cavs, man. The Cavs. If any team should look at the Cavs for how to rebuild, is the Wizards. Because if you look at Cleveland, just like DC, it's hard to get big name free agents here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the talent we have to trade or draft, and you look at Cleveland. Look, Mobley, they drafted him. Garland drafted him.
Right.
Okoro, they drafted him. You know what I mean? Jared Allen traded him in. Mitchell. That's GM, man. That's so. While I was surprised, I wasn't really because Cleveland's been sneaky, kind of aggressive the last couple of years. It's like the names I mentioned earlier. To go grab Allen from the Nets. They're sneaky with getting a lot of these core players in there. So I'm scared of Cleveland a little bit, man. To me, they're up there with Milwaukee and Boston, easy.
I think so too. Yeah, you brought up the draft picks too. I mean, the last year, so they drafted Ochai Agbaji, who they included in the trade, the 14th pick in 2022. But ever since LeBron left, they just been rebuilding, which is the Wizards. I'm not gonna say the Wizards have to tank, but they definitely consider rebuilding, especially if this year doesn't work out. They may want to go the rebuild route, or they should have went the rebuild route 2 years ago. But you look at how the Cavaliers have done it. Ted Leonsis said they'll never ever tank. The past picks they had, Colin Sexton was the 8th pick of the draft, then they had top 5 picks. Garland was the 5th pick of the draft, or Curl was the 5th pick of the draft, and then Evan Mobley was the 3rd pick of the draft. The Wizards, we keep getting the 9th pick of the draft. We keep getting solid players, but they're rotational players. Corey Kispert, 15th pick of the draft. Johnny Davis, 10th pick of the draft, who looks like another, solid rotational player. Yeah. But, the Cavaliers, they got blue chip guys, which the Wizards just haven't been able to find, or all-star potential guys in the draft in the last couple of years. I think this front office, or even the previous front office, the only way they were really able to find that top end blue chip talent was getting top 3 picks. John Wall was the 1st pick of the draft. Bradley Beal being the 3rd pick of the draft. Otto Porter was solid, but definitely not an all-star. He was the 3rd pick of the draft. Other than that, all our draft picks, they don't get second contracts. Kelly Oubre, Troy Brown Jr., or they get traded before their second contract.
Yeah, and this trade show how important, or rather, Cleveland shows how important it is to evaluate talent in the draft. I mean, Garland. Not a lot of people thought that Garland was going to be, an all-star level point guard, and it shows the vision of scouting. Garland can easily, within the next couple of years, be a top 15 point guard if he's not already. Right. I mean, he's a solid point guard who can distribute. He can score if need be. He can shoot behind the arc. I mean. Mobley, a lot of people say, could he slide into the role of being a power forward next to Allen? And I mean, they formed a nice twin towers, man. I mean, this is a scary team. And, as a Wizards fan, this is kind of the vision I wanted for my team. Cause, honestly, 2-3 years ago, we should have rebuilt, at this point, Bill's, he's re-signed, so it is what it is at this point. But
Mhm.
and that's why Tommy, he's going to have to be creative if he wants to build, because the draft picks are an issue. And I think that another issue is we kind of over evaluate our guys a little bit.
Mhm.
The fact that people aren't really fighting for Rui or Corey, you know what I mean? So, the fact that people aren't really trying to go out and get our guys shows that we're a little, we're over evaluating them a little bit. So,
Mhm.
Cleveland definitely showed that, draft capital is important. It's very important. So.
Yeah, it just makes it easier to hit the dartboard with the darts, because we're shooting from 9 feet away and they're shooting from, just 3 feet away, getting top picks. And the Wizards have just struggled to find that diamond in the rough at, pick 9, 10, or 15, or even in the second round. Like other teams have been able to have, find gems. Like the Grizzlies have been able to find gems in the later parts of the first round with Desmond Bane and other guys, Dylan Brooks in the second round. The Wizards just haven't been able to do that. But looking at this too, the Wizards had their picks tied up in protections because we know the Wizards were in contention to get Donovan Mitchell, and then there was the report that said the Wizards front office firmly believes that they have a chance. And I kind of always knew, like, hey, stuff like this doesn't happen for the Wizards. They don't usually end up with stars and making big trades for stars. I know they traded for Porzingis, but they only had to give up Bertans and Spencer Dinwiddie. But also, looking at the protections too. But before we get to this, I'll ask you, how do you see the Eastern Conference shaking out now? How do you see this trade affecting the Wizards spot or where you think they could finish in the Eastern Conference after this Cavs trade?
It changes things for Washington. We need to add another star. If you look at the top 3 teams, in my opinion, top 3 teams, or top 4, Brooklyn. Brooklyn's, you got to have 3 stars. We have 2 stars that have question marks. As much as I love Brad Beal, man, he's going to have to go into the season with a chip on his shoulder. His scoring average went down, 3-point percentage went down, the injury to the hand. So he's got to prove to people that he's that guy. He's got to play to his contract. With KP, it's never been a talent issue. It's always health, going back to the Knick days, it's always health with him. So I think that if he's healthy, he's solid, but we need another guy. I think that, maybe a mid-season trade for a wing, because Rui, if you look at Rui, it's contract year. So, the management has to ask themselves, do we want to extend Rui? So I think it changes the game. It shows that, you got to have a third star. If you look at Milwaukee, Giannis, you got Middleton, you got Drew Holiday, so I'm intrigued to see. It's tough to say because we have not seen them play together yet. We haven't seen Kuz and KP and Brad play together. So, I think the first 10, maybe 15 games will be a measuring stick of where, what we really need to do to improve this roster. So.
No, you're right. The East has improved. They are stacking up on all-star talent. You look at the Cavs right now, Donovan Mitchell's a perennial all-star. Garland just made an all-star team. Jarrett Allen made an all-star team. Evan Mobley's going to make an all-star team before his career is said and done. And then you look at the Sixers, James Harden, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris is a solid player. Tyrese Maxey is an up-and-coming player. So they got some stacked teams with the Sixers. You look at the Nets too. They got Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons now. Then you look at the Miami Heat. They're always going to be super competitive with Jimmy Butler. And then, like you brought up, Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton. Those are 3 all-star caliber players. Giannis is an MVP candidate every year, and Chris Middleton is an all-star. And then the Celtics, the East just got better. It's not the East from 2 years ago or last year where the Wizards made the playoffs being 34-38. You have to have a winning record to make the playoffs. So now, somebody's going to be odd man out. Like you look at the Eastern Conference, honestly, I'll bring up, the Eastern Conference on ESPN, but there may be a team that's a good team, like the Raptors may miss out or the Bulls may miss out. The Bulls have multiple all-stars, DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Vucevic. So it's going to be super competitive. I'm intrigued to see how the Wizards respond and play against these teams in the Eastern Conference. Miami, Boston, Milwaukee, the Sixers, the Raptors are getting better with Scotty Barnes and Siakam. So, it's going to be intriguing. In the Hawks, too, DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. So,
Oh, yeah.
Capella, teams are getting better. And I already said eight or 9 teams right there. Cleveland. So, that's, Miami's 1, Boston's 2, the Bucks are 3, Phillies 4, Toronto 5, Bulls 6. Brooklyn finished seventh last year. The Hawks were the 8th seed last year, and then Cleveland was the play-in team, the 9th team, and they're definitely going to make the playoffs this year for sure. And then on the outside looking in is, Charlotte, New York, and us. And then rebuilding teams are like the Pacers, Detroit, and Orlando. So really not a lot of spots. I mean, it's going to be a dogfight in the Eastern Conference. So it's going to be exciting to see some more competitive basketball. But the Wizards definitely have their work cut out for them for sure. So Porzingis is definitely going to have to make a leap or just stay healthy. And Brad's got to get back to his, his former self in 2021 where, he was getting buckets and getting baskets for sure. So, but yeah, just talking about the trade stuff too, and the value of the trade. I actually didn't say the trade either. What it was. I'm gonna look at Woj's Twitter here and say the trade because I know they got Colin Sexton, they got Lauri Markennan, they got of course they got a couple of picks too. They got unprotected picks to Utah in 2025, 2027, and 2029, and pick swaps in 2026 and 2028. Sources tell, along with the Rudy Gobert trade. So those are the trades they accumulated. But I'm sorry. So here's the trade right here. So Cleveland is sending 3 unprotected picks to Utah in 2025, 2027, and 2029, and pick swaps in 2026 and 2028. Sources tell ESPN right there. So they got Lauri Markennan, Ochai Agbaji, Colin Sexton, and 3 unprotected first-round picks and 2 pick swaps. And then with the Wizards, they weren't able to really trade picks because they had their picks tied up in the trade with John Wall for Russell Westbrook. So this is from the Athletic, talking about the trade that they made. So Washington owes a protected first round pick to another team, which is the Knicks now in 2023, stemming from the Westbrook John Wall swap before the 2021 season because of the league rules that prohibits teams from trading their first round picks in consecutive years. Washington cannot trade any of its first-round picks until 2028. So those are the rules with the Stipien rule as well and the protections. Just what are your thoughts with the Wizards? What do you think they need to do because their picks are just tied up? You talked about trading for a star, and then also the other rules for the trade too. I got to bring that up too. But the picks are lottery protected. So this upcoming year, it's top 14. So if they make the playoffs, then I want to say the pick conveys, but I have to look up the rules more.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I mean, Tommy's really going to have to get on his game because, the picks are an issue. Mm-hmm. And this issue is going back. I mean, we could talk about Ernie. And, the picks, because Ernie Grunfeld used to trade picks like it was out of fashion, man. I mean, he traded a first-round pick for everybody. So, it shows how draft capital is important. And the Wizards are learning it right now, how important draft picks are. And evaluating, prospects. So he's going to have to be, he's going to have to be crafty. I do believe that we need a third star, and it's going to take some time. I mean, I see that, he's going to have to take a pick of 1, maybe 2 of these young guys. Who, you have to pick a guy he wants to stay, and it's probably going to be Deni. I could see, Johnny Davis or Rui or maybe 2 or 3 of them being traded because, you got to get rid of somebody to add a star. I know a lot of people are a big fan of Kuz. But, if you look at the contract, player option. So, Kuz, he can easily be on the chopping block as far as trading him too. So, it's going to be crappy for Tommy. It really is. He inherited a situation because, like I said, for a long time, there was no, Ernie Grunfeld traded picks like it was nothing. And look at, Bogdanovich. We traded a first-round pick for a guy that we didn't even re-sign after the season. A first-round pick for, Markieff. And while Markieff Morris was, a really core piece of the John Wall years, we got rid of him and sent him to New Orleans without getting much in return. So, we really have to value draft capital. But it's going to be hard because every team right now that's chasing these stars have draft capital.
Right.
So, we'll see.
Yeah, the Wizards don't. Yeah, so I actually found the rules here, or the details of the trade. So it's top 14 protected in 2023. So if they make the playoffs, then the Knicks will get the pick. But if they don't make the playoffs, the Wizards will keep their pick, and then it just keeps rolling over year after year. The pick will stay protected year after year until 2026. And then I think after that it turns into like 2 second-round picks or something like that. So yeah, it's top 12 protected in 2024, top 10 protected in 2025. And top 8 protected in 2026. So it's handicapping us. It's handcuffing the Wizards right now to make a deal. So were you on board? Because I know there's a lot of looking on social media, there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of Wizards fans who didn't want Donovan Mitchell. So where were you on that? Did you want to see the Wizards try and get Donovan Mitchell spider?
Man, it's a two-edged sword, man. I mean, on one hand, you can see the marketability of it. Mitchell, Bill, you can market that. It'd be a high-scoring backcourt. But on the flip side, defensively, neither one of them are really good defensive players. So, I mean, you would have to outscore people. So, I mean, as far as, for the star power of Mitchell, I was in favor of it because, it's intriguing to see Mitchell, Bill, and KP if they didn't have to give up KP. The potential lineup of Porzingis, Bill, and Mitchell would be nasty. So, I was in favor of it. KD was another trade I was in favor of, but we all know how that is. He don't come home. But, so yeah, I was in favor of it.
Yeah. No, I was with it too. Like you said, they may have to give up one of the young guns like Deni, Corey, or Rui just to get somebody. You look at Cleveland, they had to give up Colin Sexton. They had to give up Markennan. They had to give up guys that are good players. Same thing with the Domantas Sabonis trade. The Kings gave up Tyrese Halliburton, a really good young prospect, really good player, a potential all-star to bring in a more proven player in Domantas Sabonis at the moment because the Kings want to win now. They want to make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in 10, 20 years, but yeah, I mean, I was on board with it. I just think the Wizards need to upgrade their top-end talent. Like we just named off the players from the Eastern Conference. They're loaded with guys. They're loaded with guys that are proven all-star players. Now, I know it would have hurt our depth, but, we haven't seen our depth really push us to make a playoff push like that either, to be honest. So, and sometimes you just got to give up stuff to get something. Like Cleveland came out of nowhere at all of this. Like it was the Knicks. Every day we were hearing like the Knicks are the front runner for Donovan Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, being with Julius Randle and whatnot, hanging out with those guys and, taking pictures or whatever that we've seen and hanging out. It ended up being Cleveland. Cleveland took a swing, and I do want to see Tommy Shepard take some more swings. I think he needs to take some more swings. If they really want to be a championship contender, like Bradley Beal says that he wants to do, then they're going to have to take some big swings here and get a star here because it's hard for them to draft and pick 9 and pick 10 and 15 and bring somebody and develop. It's hard to do that. And right now, free agency, you don't really see a lot of guys just coming in through free agency. It's via trade now. Anthony Davis was via trade. A lot of stars now are coming. The Bucks had to trade for Drew Holiday, so the past two champions have made big trades. That's just what it's been. That's just the way the NBA is right now. Disgruntled stars are upset and they want to move on, and that's what teams do now. So,
yeah, I mean, I totally agree. He's gonna have to be crafty. He's gonna have to up his GM game, man, because it's gonna take some. Look at last year, just all the pieces in that Dinwiddie trade. I mean, that was the longest trade I've ever had to wait for. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but it was crafty. When it finally finalized, it was crafty, and I was impressed. But it's very uncertain right now. Because the East is nasty right now, and it just all it did was push us farther down the standings because Toronto, another team I'm worried about. Toronto's got a nice young core. Atlanta's got a nice team. I mean, Brooklyn is a championship contending team. Milwaukee's nice. I mean, Boston. I mean, you can, you could easily list teams in the East and be already at 8-9 teams before you even hit the Wizards. So, he's going to have to up his game at general manager and find later in the year a disgruntled guy from the Western Conference or something. But it's going to take some craftiness to build his roster around Brad. So
right, yeah. The only disgruntled guy I can really see potentially this next offseason is Shai Gilgeous because I don't know, the Thunder are tanking and whatnot, and Holmgren is out for the year, so they're definitely going to tank again and probably try to get Victor Wembanyama. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but on a lighter note, though, I love the way that Kristaps has played this summer. I think he looks really healthy, really fluid. I love the mobility. He looks super healthy. He looks faster than what he did in the regular season. He looked good in the regular season with the Wizards too. I love how healthy he looks. He's running well. He's jumping well. The movement of his feet, the mobility, the foot speed, the lateral movement. And like you said, we haven't seen Brad, KP, and Kuz play together, which potentially could be I'm not going to call them a big three, but a solid three. And if those three play at a high level, then the Wizards could leapfrog possibly teams like the Raptors or the Bulls or the Hawks or teams like that and potentially get the 6th seed. So I'll end on a lighter note.
Yeah, I totally agree. KP, man, I'm telling you, it's the beard, man. That beard has got him.
There you go.
I'm saying it's the beard because I mean he looks fast, man. I mean he looks good, and you know watching him and Deni, man, that's the optimism for me. You know, I really see both of them taking a leap forward this season. You know, I think that KP has a chip on his shoulder because you know, and really if you look at the stats in Dallas, they weren't bad. You know, there's a lot of hate from the Dallas fans for KP, man. I don't understand it because, you know, he was solid in Dallas. So, nah, man, big fan of what I saw from KP in this so far, man.
Yeah. But all right, Brandon, shout out your Twitter so people can follow you, and we'll wrap it up.
Oh, yes, sir. You can follow me at Twitter at DASCOTTZ041813.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, so I thank you guys for listening. Now, for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys subscribe to Locked On Wizards on YouTube and hit the notification bell as well, and subscribe wherever you can get a podcast. Also, we're going to do a hot takes episode, so drop your hot takes for the Wizards upcoming season down below on the YouTube comment section, or you can add us on Twitter, or you can DM either one of us on Twitter if you have a hot take as well. So everybody have a good weekend. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend.